Talkin Yak live.
Hey everyone, it's Jim Yakubuski back for another edition of Talkin Yak Live. In this video, I'll be referencing my Talkin Yak article from the March 2019 edition of Live Sound International. That article was entitled Caution, Channels Merging, and it looked at things to be mindful of when combining similar inputs from the same source. Inputs like kick in and kick out, bass DI and bass mic, and a double mic'd guitar rig that might have a condenser and a dynamic mic on the same cabinet. With the sheer amount of channels we have available on today's digital consoles, I bet we all experiment a little bit with taking more than one input from the same source. So let's have a look at how this can sometimes improve the overall sound, give us a little bit of tonal flexibility, but can also adversely affect the overall tone if we're not careful about a few things. All right, let's dive in and check it out. All right, before we get going on combining two similar inputs, like a kick drum in mic, a kick drum out mic, a bass DI, and a bass mic, I wanted to just bring up a little something I mentioned in the article called Caution, Channels Merging. The caution side of things. Don't always assume that just having more than one input from the same source is always going to be the best scenario. A lot of times, just one input by itself is really the best sounding scenario. You got, say, a bass DI and a bass mic. You bring the bass DI up and you go, it sounds pretty good. And then you start adding the mic in and things sound kind of strange. That's what we're going to work on today is utilizing and optimizing two inputs. But I just wanted to give that caveat at the start that sometimes just using one input is the better choice. Okay, so where we're going to get started here now is with a cool track by Peter Frampton called Lying, which is probably one of the crew's favorite songs of the night. Always a good rockin' intro into some great guitar work. And we're going to focus in on the drums and then the bass. So starting out, we're going to listen to a little bit of this track. I'm going to kind of just give you a little feel for how that sounds, and then we're going to go and zoom in on the kick drum. Okay, so let's give it a listen. Man, you never want to hit the stop bar to stop that when that gets rolling. Okay, so we're going to listen in on the two kick drums. So what we need to do is kind of mute everything else for now and just concentrate on the drums. We'll go back here. We'll do a little kick and snare for a sec, and then we're going to then we're just going to go in and listen to the kicks. Okay, so here we go again. All right. We'll mute our reverbs too so we can really fine tune this. Okay, so here we go. I got this on a loop, so this is going to go for a while, and we're just going to listen to the two kick drums. So here's what we got. We have kick in and kick out. They sound a lot like an inside kick mic and an outside kick mic, but in this scenario, they're actually the same mic, double assigned to two channels. We had a Telefunken M82 on this drum, and it just didn't really make sense to ever have a second mic, and so this was my little workaround to try and get two different tonalities out of the same drum. So let's first zero in on kick one. If you look on the screen, you'll see what we got going for EQ. After playing around a little bit with this kind of seemed to be the best place to start out. You can see 68 Hertz is boosted on the lows, a little cut in the low mid at 305, and then we have a boost at 4.12 kilohertz. kind of standard. And then if we look over here at the outside mic, you can see the main thing I want to point out is that the low frequency is different. It's 46.3 hertz, and so this is kind of our lead into where we can get in trouble with combining two kick drum mics. Now I've gone through and optimized these for my taste and for a pair of headphones that I have on my Neumann studio monitors here. And this works the best for this scenario, but that doesn't mean in a big PA system with a bunch of subs that these two frequencies would be the best. But going back to our inside mic, there we go. Listen to that for a sec. So let's play around a little bit with that lower frequency and just see what we get. So there's 68, that's kind of where I landed. You can hear if we get up to 82, we kind of get away from the nice round note on that. So 63, 68. So yeah, 68 kind of gives us a nice round, full bassy kind of note on that. And you can see I've got a third octave and quite a bit of boost on that, but more for demonstration purposes than anything. Okay, so if we look again with the outside mic, got that boosted 46. Again, we can just quickly play with that. Again, this is the same mic into two channels, so whatever worked for the one we're calling in mic is going to work here too, but we're looking for kind of another note. We're looking for something that's going to sit in the subs a little better, and that's where I landed, 46.3. Okay, so now let's look at combining these two drums and see what we have to do to make them work together. So there's both of them up together, and I'll just kind of give away the spoiler here, and that is that I had to delay these. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll take one of these inputs and we'll just flip the phase. Now if you've got like I said, a beta 91 inside and maybe a 52 outside, and the distance between the mics is 9 to 15 inches, sometimes a polarity flip is just what you need. So if we go back here to the preamp tab, we can flip our polarity. We're going to do that with the inside mic. It's the first. If this was actually two mics, that would be the closest one. So I would use that for polarity and delay time augmentation adjustment. So let's have a listen. We're going to flip polarity and see what happens. Horrible things happen. Really bad, horrible things happen. And this is mostly because of the fact that we have these two inputs are coming from the same mic. So a polarity flip wouldn't seem to make much sense. All right, so delay is going to be our answer to get these things to work. You can see that I landed on 2 milliseconds as my delay time for kick in. And let's play around with that a little bit. I'm just going to move it around between sort of 0 and 4 milliseconds, and you be the judge. Oh, we're coming to the end of the song. Of course we are. So we're going to start over. So there's 2. You can hear as I get away from that time that the sound is kind of falling apart a little bit. So let's go back up to 2. They're gelling pretty nicely there. We get up to 3 and you can kind of hear them falling apart again. So 2 is what I landed on. I just wanted to show you that. And let's go back to that now, and then what we're going to do is actually take the delay out, and I want you to hear how much good this is doing to our sound. So here we go, we're taking it out. Kind of weird. So there's our inside, there's our outside. Put them together, kind of get a strange flammy sound almost, and put it back in, and they come together. Now the cool thing about this, and one of the things that I explained in the article, was that you can use this delay function to actually sort of tune your kick drum. You can find the delay time that accentuates the note or the small frequency range that's working best in the PA that day. So this is a thing I do a lot. So let's say the PA that I'm working with that day is, or my touring PA in the room is acting, you know, really nice and fat and big around 45, 50 hertz, but it's kind of got an overtone around 80. So I can use this delay to actually tune around a little bit and find a note for the two drums that sounds the best. So let's try that. So you can see as I go up a little bit, the note kind of rose. And as I drop down there, it kind of deepened to where we're sort of more in the 45 range where they're coupling. So there we are, landing back at 2. So this is where you have a choice. This is sort of like a tone knob almost, where you can use the delay to get the best result for the day. You know, obviously if you're with the same band touring every day, you get used to the way your PA sounds, the way the drum kit sounds with the mics that you have or the single mic that you have. So this is a little fine tuning feature that I like to do, and I have a lot of fun with this. So next thing we're going to do, we are going to go and work on the bass guitar. Same thing here. I'd like to come back and maybe do another video featuring similar inputs sources like a bass DI and a bass mic, or a 91 and a 52 on the kick. But with this music that we're using from this awesome music from Frampton and his band, in this one it was single inputs, double assigned to 2 channels. So let's have a look at this. So we got bass open. I'm going to come up here and we're going to start out from the start of the track, and we'll listen again to both of the inputs together, and then we're going to play around with what we're doing with these. So here we go again from the top. Okay. So let's look at what we have going with these 2 inputs. On the EQ for the straight up bass sound, we got nothing. We got no high pass, no low pass, no filters. This is just an uneq'd sound right off his DI. And if we're going to listen to that by itself, that's about what you would expect. Bass DI. Now let's listen to the one that I've got labeled bass high. And there you go. All the low end is taken away with a high pass filter at 80. I've taken away some of the clack at 5.2. Could probably even go a little lower with that. And then in the mid-range, you can see I've got 2 boosts, one at 504 and another at 125. And these are kind of accentuating some growl and a little bit of sort of high mid clarity. And I blend this in with the deeper straight up bass DI. So let's take this out and I'll fade it in, and you can hear what this is doing for us. Just giving us a little extra clarity. If we go back to the top of the track again, you can really hear this in the intro part. So there you have it. All right, so what did we have to do to make these 2 work together? When you introduce a high pass filter, which I've done on the bass high, a lot of things can go wrong. And this is also true with kick drums. If you if you are using two different mics and you want one to sort of be your attack and clarity mic, and so you roll the high pass filter up a bit, it can really shift the phase relationship of the two inputs. So my initial thought was get each input to sound the way you want it to sound on its own first. There's the DI, there's my clarity mic, and then when you add them together, let's look at this again. What we're going to do is try the polarity switch again, because that's always a good first place to go if you're trying to blend two things, especially once you start introducing high passes. So here we go. We're going to try the polarity. Nope. We lost pretty much everything there. All our low end went away. So we put that back in. We're in a pretty decent spot, but I'm sure you're one step ahead of me, and you can already guess that what we're going to want to do is delay one of these inputs. So since the bass DI is my main instrument here, I have chosen to not use any delay there, but you can see that on the second one I have, and it didn't take much. It took just 1.34 milliseconds to get me in a good spot. But let's just listen to this again from the top, and we'll listen to what happens when I take the delay out. There you can hear how much low end we're losing. It's kind of the upper bit part of the sort of the middle range of the bass low notes, which sort of not 30 hertz and not 125, but somewhere 90, 100 hertz is being affected without delay. And again, let's just play around with this and see if we can tune our bass a little bit with this. There's 1.34 where I landed, but let's go down and then up. All right, definitely losing our low end there. And we're back in that range where we're getting that upper bass, low mid working together. And again, we're kind of out of it. So with these two, there's definitely a small range where that works. All right, so you can see here what using two inputs from the same source can do for you. Sometimes it works out great. Sometimes it doesn't. If you find you have two different mics on a guitar cabinet, say a 57 and a KSM, a nice condenser mic, or like in this case we had a Telefunken on the kick drum, and maybe you have two different brands of microphones, two different positions, two different cones in the guitar cabinet. A lot of time you have to check the wiring on those things, because they might not mesh up very nicely when you put two different mics on two different cones and try to put them together in the mix. So heed my warning, caution, channels merging. You want to start out with listening to one input, evaluate, how does that sound? And then bring up the other input. How does that sound? If you're using them for tone, like what I've done with the bass here, then you can specifically EQ them for a purpose. Same with kick in, kick out. But when you start combining them, your two best friends are going to be your polarity switch and also your delay. And in my more recent experience, delay seems to be the fine tuning. Polarity will sometimes get you there, but your delay adjustment is going to seal the deal and get it all working at the end. So thanks so much for tuning in. This is Talkin Yak Live number 2, and this one is called Caution Channels Merging. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it taught you a couple new things, or maybe made you sort of look at it and refresh some of your practices when combining two similar inputs. Thanks a lot. See you next time.
Talkin Yak live.